But do we listen? Are we attentive to the word of God? Are we attentive to the call? Because God did not just create us and put it very, very clearly that we were created for a purpose. We were created for a purpose. Have you known your purpose? Have I known my purpose? To be on this earth. And life is not just about eating and sleeping. No. God has a higher purpose, and we are to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, what is my purpose? Why did God bring me into this world? It takes such a long time for you between the time you are conceived and the time your mother gave birth to you. Was it just for you to come into the world and stick to the things of this world? Or did God have a higher purpose? I think it's time we sought the Lord to give us our purpose and why we are here. You have gone to school, you have started working, and all we do when we start working is looking for ways and means of investing our money, which is okay, because the Lord also wants us to be wise with our investments. Remember the parable of the employer who went for a journey and he left talents behind. And when he came back, he asked for an account of those talents, whatever he left behind. So we have been given gifts by God, but we have to find out, how do I use these gifts for the glory of God and for his kingdom? Because we know that God is always talking to us, he's always calling us. And I hope you watched my video on how does God talk to us. If you haven't, please get it and watch it. And we look at the life of Samuel. Remember Hannah, the mother of Samuel, had really prayed for a child. She prayed until she cried out to God from the bottom of her heart, because she was in such a situation that her co-wife, Penina, kept mocking her because she had no child. So God heard her cry, and she promised God that if you will hear me and give me a son, I'll give him to you. Now we look at the life of Samuel, who was born by Hannah. And Samuel went to live with Eli in the temple because the mother fulfilled her promise to God to give the son back to the God who gave him to her. So in 1 Samuel chapter 3, we see Samuel, the young Samuel, during the time was minister to the Lord under Eli. A revelation of the Lord was uncommon and vision infrequent. One day Eli was asleep in his usual place. His eyes had lately grown so weak that he could not see. The lamp of God was not yet extinguished, and Samuel was sleeping in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. The Lord called to Samuel, who answered, "Here I am." He ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." "I did not call you." Eli said, "Go back to sleep." So he went back to sleep. Again the Lord called Samuel, who rose and went to Eli. "Here I am." He said, "You called me." But he answered, "I did not call you, my son. Go back to sleep." That time Samuel was not familiar with the Lord because the Lord had not revealed anything to him as yet. So he's not even familiar with the voice of God. The Lord called Samuel again for the third time. Getting up and going to Eli, he said, "Here I am. You called me." And Eli understood that the Lord was calling the youth. So he said to Samuel, "Go to sleep, and if you are called, reply, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" When Samuel went to sleep in his place, the Lord called and revealed his presence, calling out as before, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel answered, "Speak, for your servant is listening." The Lord said to Samuel, "I'm about to do something in Israel that will cause the ears of everyone who hears it to ring. On that day I will carry out in full against Eli everything I threatened against his family. I announced to him that I am condemning his family once and for all because of this crime. Though he knew his sons were blaspheming God, he did not reprove them. Therefore I swear to the family of Eli that no sacrifice or offering will ever expiate its crime." Samuel then slept until morning. When he got up early and opened the doors of the temple of the Lord, he feared to tell Eli the vision. But Eli called to him, "Samuel, my son." He replied, "Here I am." Then Eli said, "What did he say to you? Hide nothing from me. May God do thus and so if you hide a single thing he told you." So Samuel told him everything and held nothing back. Eli answered, "He is the Lord. He'll do what he judges best." Samuel grew up, and the Lord was with him, not permitting any word of his to be without effect. Thus all Israel from Dan to Beersheba came to know that Samuel was an accredited prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear as he manifested himself to Samuel at Shiloh through his word, and Samuel spoke to all Israel. So that was the call of Samuel. Do you think the call started when he was staying with Eli? No. The call started way back. God had called Samuel even before he was conceived in his mother's womb. And now we see him being given a message. Remember, Eli is the one taking care of him at the temple. Samuel is just a youth, but he is under the mentorship of Eli. But he's being given a message to give to Eli of what is going to happen to his family. And because Eli has served the Lord for so long, he has this feeling that there is a message that God gave him, and he wanted to hear it from Samuel. So, where you are you hearing the Lord's call, which you have not heeded? Can you hear the Savior calling and is asking you to go out and perform a certain task? Sometimes we don't know where God is leading us, but He will always lead us to where He wants us to go, according to His timing and according to His ways. Well, after looking at how Samuel has been called by God to serve Him as His prophet, we also witness in Exodus how Moses was also called by God to go and lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. And that preparation was done way back, even before Moses was born. God knew all what was going to happen, and He prepared Moses for this task. Because God does not plan today, He plans right from our inception. He plans, this is what you are going to do for me. He plans, this is your ministry. He plans, So whatever we do, we must do it for the glory of God. Because we witness Moses being called by God. And meanwhile, Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, leading the flock across the desert. He came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in fire flaming out of the bush. As he looked out, he was surprised to see that the bush, though on fire, was not consumed. So Moses decided, I must go over to look at this remarkable sight and see why the bush is not burned. When the Lord saw him coming over to look at it more closely, God called out to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. He answered, Here I am. God said, Come no nearer, remove the sandals from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. I am the God of your father, he continued, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. But the Lord said, I have witnessed the affliction of my people in Egypt, and have heard their cry of complaint against their slave drivers. So I know well what they are suffering. Therefore I have come down to rescue them from the hands of the Egyptians and lead them out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the country of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivitites, and Jebusites. So indeed, the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have truly noted that the Egyptians are oppressing them. Come now, I will send you to Pharaoh to lead my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. That is the assignment of Moses that God had planned for him from time immemorial, even before he was conceived in his mother's womb. God knew that he will use him to go and deliver the children of Israel out of Egypt. Now, what is your assignment? What is my assignment? Because we know that God does not work in a vacuum. He does not create us just to come and live in this world of his and go. Remember when he created our first parents, and he put them in the Garden of Eden, and he told them to tend the land and to multiply. So me and you are called to work in God's vineyard, to work in his vineyard as co-workers with Christ. Co-workers in doing what? Co-workers in leading people to him through our own examples, through our own actions, through our own words. And when we get the true meaning, you don't have to be a pastor at the pulpit. You are called as a parent. And as a parent, you have a responsibility over your children to guide them and to direct them. Remember, this is a responsibility you have been given by God, and you will give an account of what you did with that ministry. We today have parents who cannot guide children because they have allowed their children to guide them. It has never happened, it cannot work, and it will never work. Because God even gave a commandment, the fourth commandment, that children should honor their mothers and their fathers. So if you have allowed your children to be ahead of you, instead of you guiding them, instead of you leading them, you will definitely give an account for their souls to God. The other thing, you have a responsibility, maybe wherever you are working, at your place of work. People don't take this as a ministry. It is a ministry. Where you are serving, serve well, as if you are serving God. not man. You could be a policeman, you could be in the army, you could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a teacher, whatever profession you are in. Just know that that profession has been given to you by God to serve Him. As you serve humanity, you are serving God. And whatever you do, the least of my brothers, that you do unto me. So if you are in charge of some people, and these people are suffering, they have complaints against you, you are making them suffer, punishing them for no good reason. Just the same way the Egyptians were punishing the children of Israel. Because what good reason did they have? The children of Israel were obedient, they were doing what they were told to do, but they kept punishing them. And we even read that when Moses went to deliver them, they even made the work harder for them. Maybe that's what you are doing wherever you are. You are making work harder for those people who are working under you, instead of making their work easier, so that they can work with joy and enjoy what they are doing. Maybe as a parent, you have made your family miserable because of your actions, because of what you are doing. This is also a call to serve God. Wherever you are, you could be a nurse. Are you treating patients well? Are you making them comfortable? Are you assisting them bear their pain? Or you are the one who is increasing their pain by not doing the right thing, by not giving the right medication, by delaying medication? If you are in government, how are you serving God wherever you are? It is a call wherever you are to serve. It doesn't matter what you are doing. That work has been given to you by God. That is your calling. And you have to handle it properly, because you will give an account to God about what you did with all the talents He gave you, what you did with all the education He gave you, what you did with all the wisdom He gave you. You will give an account. So God is calling us to serve Him and serve Him well. Wherever we have been placed, remember we are told, if you have been planted, wherever you are planted, flourish there for the glory of God. Because take that as your calling. Don't say I'm not a pastor. Don't say I'm not ordained. No, we have all been called. And it is well explained in 1 Peter chapter 2. You can read 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 to 10, just to hear how this calling is. Because if we do not understand, then we are going to live our lives like people who do not know what they are doing. We are called, that is verse 9 and 10. So we are told, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people of His own, so that you may announce the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. Once you are no people, but now you are God's people. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So if we receive mercy, we give mercy. We become channels of mercy. And we have been called to this priesthood as children of God out of darkness into His light, so that we can lead others and not putting the light under the table. The light should be well placed so that everyone who is listening to you, everyone who is looking at you, will be well guided, because you are full of that light of Christ. Remember, Christ said, I am the light of the world, and whoever follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. So as we continue navigating, let us just know that we have been called. Wherever you are, wherever you are serving, serve the Lord well. It is for His glory. Whatever you do, do it for His glory. Whatever you say it for His glory. If you have been blessed with a voice of worship, worship like you'll never worship before. If you have been blessed as a preacher, preach like you'll never preach before. If you are blessed like a teacher, teach like you'll never teach before. Because we have been reminded in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9 that we are the chosen race. The chosen race. And so we must continue embracing the call of God. He calls us, He talks to us every time. But are we listening? Are we following? Or we are just relying on our own understanding instead of relying on the understanding of God, the understanding that He has given unto us. So we are called to serve God, to do His work in His way, not in our way, in His way, to serve Him in whatever capacity He has placed us in. Remember, it doesn't matter. Even if you are employed to open gates, do it for the glory of God. If your work is to sweep the streets, sweep for the glory of God. If you are employed like a cook, cook for the glory of God, because that is where your call is. That is where your call is. And that is what is going to determine whether you are moving from glory to glory. Wherever you are serving, whatever you are doing, just know that you have been called to serve and to excel in that particular area for the glory of God. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And please subscribe to this channel so that we can continue bringing more and more, and share with your friends and leave a comment, because positive feedback is good and we will take it positively. So the Lord is calling. Are you listening? Are you ready to take the call? Please subscribe. I will share another message again and again and again. So please do subscribe so that you can continue receiving more and more messages. Thank you. Be blessed.